The French Revolution was a cataclysmic event that triggered a tremendous upsurge of prophetic speculation because it was so obviously anti-God, anti-authoritarian, so revolutionary that some people began to wonder if the French Revolution was part of the fulfillment of prophecy of the end days. And what it did, it inspired finally some of the not only responsible people, but some on the fringe element like Edward Irving, to call together some Bible conferences. So by 1825, all of this ferment had generated an interest in prophecy, and Edward Irving of the Catholic Apostolic Church, a man who was defrocked by the Presbyterians because of heresy, but he organized some Bible conferences at the Albury mansion of a fellow named Henry Drummond, not the Henry Drummond who wrote The Greatest Thing in the World. This was a banker and a politician, Henry Drummond, one before the later Henry Drummond. You can't confuse the two. Henry Drummond had a palatial estate, an Albury mansion, and he gave that estate for the use of Edward Irving. And Darby came to these as well. Darby he was born in 1800, so by now he was 25 and had gone through his spiritual experience, was just beginning to work through his head the early revolutionary ideas that he was beginning to get. It was tended by George Mueller, the famous saint who ran those orphanages, and a fellow named Samuel Tregelles, a great textual critic. Out of the Albury Conference, and then later the Powers Court conferences in Dublin, which were named after Lady Powers Court, with whom J.N. Darby fell in love, and they were engaged to be married. And his followers were scandalized by that. They thought that Darby had been raised up by God to be the restorer of the church. And so they put pressure on Darby to break off this engagement and give himself full time to the Lord's work, in their view, which he did. The engagement was broken. But at any rate, Lady Powers Court also had a mansion, and in her mansion there were another series of Bible conferences from about 1830 to at least 1836 we know about. Could have been some after that. So the Albury conferences from about 1825 to 1830 and the Powers Court conferences from about 1830 to 1836, they were the powerhouses that really generated a coalescence of several streams of thought that were coming together, one again being the French Revolution. The second was Zionism, the restoration of the nation of Israel. And the third was the, quote, restoration of the lost church. And the 19th century at this time began to see the emergence of the modern idea that still exists in the Church of Christ, the restorationist heresy, the idea that the church was, Darby called it the church in ruins. There was a concept that the early church, the pure church, disintegrated and was lost very quickly by the end of the 2nd century. And it was only until the 19th century that certain people such as Thomas Campbell and Joseph Smith and J.N. Darby and of course the Jehovah's Witness founder Charles Taze Russell and others said, I am the one who has been called upon by God to raise up the true church for the latter days. So you had the French Revolution triggering it. You had the restoration of the state of Israel, the physical Israel, the Old Testament Israel, which they mistakenly took to be what was prophesied to be restored, and the restorationist idea. So these were the main ideas that were circulating and that came out of those conferences.